Guatemala today is facing a psychological, social, and legal crisis. The nation's highly popular Attorney General, Claudia Paz, who many consider to be a crusader for human rights and the rule of law, is facing early removal. There's a question that's been posed to the Constitutional Court about whether or not Claudia Paz is entitled to a 4-year term, or if she is in fact serving out the final 3.5 years of a term which was begun by her predecessor. This legal question, however, has precipitated a much greater debate within the country about the role of human rights and specifically how the nation should deal with the memories and the legacy of their decades-long civil war. Close to 200,000 people died during the Civil War, and there were a myriad of atrocities committed. The vast majority of these atrocities were committed by members of the Guatemalan army and armed forces in some way or another. The most notorious that these were committed under the rule in the early 1980s of dictator Reeves. Now, Claudia Paz has been instrumental in prosecuting many of these crimes. She has her critics, though, mostly on the right, and they feel that she has focused exclusively on the prosecuting of crimes committed by the army, and that she's not been looking at potential crimes which may have been committed by the guerrilla forces on the left during the Civil War. What's fundamentally going on here, though, is not a question of whether or not war criminals should be prosecuted or not. There's little doubt in most people's minds about that. The real struggle, though, is with how Guatemala as a nation should process its wartime memories. By prosecuting people like Reeves and others who committed crimes during the Civil War, Claudia Paz is forcing the nation of Guatemala to engage directly with memories that many would have preferred to have simply forgotten. A very common thread, especially when talking to centrists or maybe moderate conservatives here, is that they would prefer to simply acknowledge guilt on all sides, with those in the guerrilla forces, with those in the army, put it all behind them, and move forward with pressing issues from now. This is stuff like corruption, extortion, the gangs, the drug war. They don't want to look at or focus on what they see as stuff that should remain in the past. Claudia Paz and many human rights organizations obviously feel differently, that this kind of philosophy gives short shrift to the rights of especially indigenous people who suffered under the rule of Reeves and other dictators, and that this fails to uphold the rule of law and human rights in Guatemala. All of that brings us to today. There's a small legal question over Claudia Paz's term in office, but this legal question has been blown into a greater political discussion. Many believe that there are forces on the right which are seeking to remove Claudia Paz from office and have been pushing the matter in the court. At the same time, many on the right will say that Claudia Paz has benefited unduly from support, international support especially, from people like the U.S. Ambassador, Human Rights Watch, other groups like this, which the right says have blindly supported Claudia Paz and have ignored her sort of failure to prosecute crimes that were committed by people other than former military officers. And the right here is specifically talking about or trying to say that she has not properly prosecuted former guerrilla fighters. I hope you enjoy what's written here. I go into some more analysis of the role of memory in Guatemala, and specifically how this memory has contributed to the current debate over Claudia Paz's term, and specifically human rights here in Guatemala. In the second part of this series, I contrast two conversations, one that I had with a leader of a far-right extremist group here in Guatemala, and another with a professor of Latin American Studies who focuses on impunity and human rights in the region.